never gonna make it. You're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible. It's not probable. You're irresponsible. Too many obstacles. You gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow. You can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a if you say you disapprove. I'm gonna make my move. I'm gonna make it soon. And I'll do it cause it's what I wanna do. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions. They blocking your vision. But no, you can't listen. That shit is all fiction. Cause you hold the power as long as you're dreaming.
There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Or will you fight?
Hello and welcome to Game Day from the UK, another Miami Heat UK live pre-game show here tonight to preview the game against the Phoenix Suns. It's a Saturday night, so the stream team are a bit low on the ground today, but we've got my man, first of all, he coming clutch, Ollie Rahimi. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. Good. Happy New Year to you.
And you?
And we was, as I said, we was lucky at the 11th hour. I reached out to my man, Matt LV at Suns Fans UK, asking, can he help us out tonight? We're a bit low on the ground. Lots of my guys are either ill or they're out or they're doing something. And he said, absolutely no problem, Dan. I'm involved. Matt, how are you?
Yep, very well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
No problem at all. Thank you for rescuing us tonight. Very pleased to have you on. We've got lots to talk about. The things are going very well for Phoenix, and we'll come on to that for a minute. But first of all, Ollie, like we always like to do, we just want to reflect quickly on the game just had before we come on to tonight's exciting game against Phoenix. The last game of our West Coast trip tonight, we still got to go and visit Atlanta before we come back home. But a trip that's been sort of plagued with injuries, health and safety protocols, etc. A difficult loss against the Kings, but then an important bounce back win against Portland. We come on to tonight's game, which is going to be very tough. That game against Portland was a big one, wasn't it? We had to get that one over the line. Yeah,
definitely. I think it would have been a bit of maybe a disappointment of a road trip if we hadn't have won that game against Portland. Obviously, coming into the game against Phoenix tonight, they are one of the best teams in the league. There's no doubt in that. I think it was the same sort of thing playing against the Warriors as well. Probably those two we would have pinned and said, okay, with the roster looking like it is, with Jimmy, in and out, basically, Bam out, and then so many important rotation pieces missing, playing the Suns and playing the Warriors, you could probably expect to lose those two. If we can pick up some wins elsewhere, then great. But I think overall it has been a really good West Coast road trip. Tonight, I'm not expecting great things from the Heat, but that's sort of when we seem to do our best. So, yeah, I'm hopeful. But if, whatever happens, if we can maybe pick up a win in Atlanta, and then get back home, I think it'll be a fairly successful trip in the end.
I totally echo that. I think it will be, all things considered. I know the very first game got called off because Heat was sort of being told to go and get players from the Spurs G League team, etc. And that didn't really happen at all. Then we got issues with Jimmy, etc. So to come away with a couple of wins, I think has been productive, all things considered. Whilst I just mentioned Jimmy there, Ollie, another injury to the right ankle. It's a bit concerning. It's not, thankfully, as bad as what we all initially thought it was going to be. When we see him go down in that much pain, that much agony, we all thought the worst. Maybe this could be a long-term thing. Maybe we could be sitting for a couple of weeks. And yet here we are just a couple of games later, and he could be playing tonight. He's listed as questionable. Jimmy will tell you it's fine. What would you do here at the moment? Would you sit him for this game and maybe the Atlanta game and just say, go back to Miami and let's pick it up from there? Or if he's saying I'm fighting fit, he's your best player, do you play him?
Yeah, to be honest, I think I'm erring on the side of caution with him just because of how important he is to us. I think if I was in the Heat, medical staff, I would be saying to him, go back to Miami. We'll see you in 2 games time. But knowing Jimmy, he could break his leg and say, no, I'm fine, I want to play. So he's just got that fighting mentality, which is brilliant. And we need that, especially when we're missing people like Oladipo and Bam and a lot of guys in health and safety protocols. But yeah, I don't think it's worth the risk long term. I think we are hopefully a lock for the 4th seed at least. So just getting a healthy roster, if we can get that in the playoffs, then we'll be good, because ultimately that's what we're working towards. All of this in the regular season effectively won't matter if we're not in the playoffs. So get as much of a healthy roster as we can for that, and then we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think bigger picture here, I'd like to think that regardless of Jimmy being there or not, we'll be playing a struggling Hawks team coming up next. I'd like to think, although it's always a tough game, of course, we'd have enough to beat them, Jimmy Butler aside or not. So tonight's game, I wouldn't play him. It's difficult because we've got lots of players out, and Jimmy is our best player. But if we end up him going down and it then becomes a long-term thing, what's the point? What is the point? One more question for you, Ollie, before I come on to Matt and some stuff about the Suns. Last game out, again, a good win against Portland. There was a tweak to the starting lineup with Strus coming in for Duncan Robinson, who, of course, we know was in health and safety protocol, but had come out of it. So we all expected Duncan to just slot straight back in at the starting five like he has done all season. But Max Strus started, and Max Strus delivered 25 points. He's been awesome all season, as we know. What do we do now, though? Because they're both fit and healthy. Do we revert back to Duncan at the starting five, bringing Max off the bench? Or is Max saying, look, I've done enough, keep me in?
Risking the wrath of John, our very own John, and Sean from 5 Reasons, I'm going to say if Jimmy's out, I think we should stick with Max Strus in the starting lineup. I think Max Strus has done very, very well in the starting lineup, and he seems to do better maybe when Jimmy's not there. Not to say he does badly, but I think Duncan starting alongside Jimmy, they complement each other more than Max maybe does. Jimmy and Max's relationship is brilliant. I absolutely love it.
It's the best.
They're flipping each other off every time they walk past each other. Is brilliant. But long term, I think Duncan will go back to the starting five. But I think with Jimmy out, I think Strus starting suits the Heat slightly better.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would like to think that Duncan, for his own confidence, because he hadn't actually been playing badly recently, would probably slot straight back in. But you make a good point there. With Jimmy out, Strus does give you that little bit more in terms of he can maybe offer a bit more rounded than what Jimmy Butler probably would give you. So that's an interesting take. I would be excited to see it tonight, I've got to be honest. And yeah, maybe that's the way it'll go. It'll be a tough choice for Spo. On to tonight's game then against Phoenix. And yes, we've got Matt here from Suns Fans UK. Brilliant to have you on. Matt, we've just been saying there, Heat have been, all things considered, done very well this year. We're a 4th seed at the moment. We're still several games above 500, considering we've had so many problems injury-wise and recently health and safety protocol-wise. What's been the situation with Phoenix in terms of a health and safety protocol type scenario? Because we've seen many teams go down. I think the Suns have been okay, haven't they? They haven't had too bad issues on that front.
Well, the way they performed, you wouldn't think that they have had problems, but we've been really fortunate that we were one of the later teams to get it. I think we're like the 3rd last team to have it hit us. But no, the last sort of 6 games we've had our coach out, Monty Williams, Jay Crowder, our starting power forward, as obviously you guys know. DeAndre Ayton's been out, and McGee. So both our main centre and our backup, which meant we've been starting Jalen Smith, who is a 2nd-year forward / centre, who hadn't really done anything until this stretch, but we've weathered the storm really, really well, and we've gone 4 and 6 in that stretch. Unluckily for you guys, though, DA, McGee, and Jay are all back tonight after resting the last game to get some cardio fitness in over the previous 3 days. So yeah, you're coming in, and even without them, we've been pretty hot, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, Phoenix, a great organisation, have done extremely well, riding off of last year's success, running all the way to the NBA Finals. I put you guys at 2nd seed before a ball was bounced this season, so I thought you was very much on target to go and do it all again. I only had Denver above you, which, I mean, they sort of struggled this year, but again, issues themselves with health and safety protocols, etc. It's always going to be that sort of scenario this year. There might be a few unusual positions in the standings, but I had Phoenix doing well. You are doing well. What are your thoughts this year? Is the aspiration? I mean, you're a bit like us. Your timeline to win is right now. Yeah. Did you think this at the start? Did you think at the start of the season that there was in no way in your mind that last season was a one-off or a fluke, and you was very prepared to be back as a contender again this year?
Yeah, I knew we'd be a contender again. The key cogs on the team stayed. We added Landry Shamet, who has been a bit of a disappointment, I must admit. He's not been great. He had a good game, and then he's now out with COVID, actually. So we're missing him at the moment. who else did we have? Obviously, McGee. I've been campaigning for us to get McGee. I think the season before he signed with the Lakers, so the year that they won, the year that you guys went to the finals, I wanted him then because I thought he'd be really good for DA to learn from. Obviously, he made the correct career choice because he went and got another title. But yeah, I've wanted him for a long time, and he's been bloody fantastic. So we're better this year than what he was last time. Obviously, I think the West, if players come back, Denver will be stronger if Jamal Murray's back. God knows if the Lakers will pull it together. I don't know. But yeah, I think we're pretty legit. Utah are strong during the season. There's that rhetoric that they can't do it in the playoffs, but I don't know. I think last year I think they played well and they just got knocked out by a team that was really, really hungry. The Clippers are behind as well. So yeah, I'm not surprised. We've added some wrinkles to our offense because it's a pretty heavy pick and roll run offense. But they've added some additional wrinkles, moved CP3 a little bit and stuff like that. Got DA involved a bit more with a bit of playmaking as well, which is good for his development. So yeah, I always look at Bam as somewhere where I think DA should look to offensively in the high post, because if we can get sort of some of that passing that Bam provides you guys, I think there'll be no doubt that he'll be an all-star for years.
Well, that's a good point, and it's not something I had in my notes, but I'm glad you brought it up here with DA. What's the situation? Because obviously you seem like you've got a luxury in terms of you're blessed to have, a bit like Miami, probably a top 5, top 6 center in the NBA, and yet is the situation changed? The idea, as far as I last saw it, is he wasn't likely to be getting paid. What's the situation at the moment?
So, yep, he could have been re-signed. I think the deadline for re-signings from that 18 draft was the 31st of October. They didn't come to an agreement. I don't know really what's gone on there, why they've decided that. I think maybe they thought that the performance that he's put in was too short in the playoffs, but he's carried that on massively. Cynically, I think they've done it on purpose. I think they do want to pay him, but we've got quite a tight owner. Out of all the billionaires in the NBA, he's probably the poorest. So I think what they're planning is that he'll get an offer sheet in the summer, which is a year less than what we would offer and quite a few $1 million less as well. And they'll automatically match it. So I think it was a play on that. But if it was a play to get him to perform and continue to perform, it's worked because he's carried on what he did in the playoffs. My thing with rookie extensions is, has that player shown improvement every single year and done exactly what you as a team has asked him? And he did, even taking a step back last year and completely changing his game. So I imagine he feels quite betrayed in that sense. But he's got a good locker room around him. You know, having CP3 there, he's probably told him, look, just ignore it. It's just a business. You're going to get paid. I'm going to get you paid and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was really disappointing. And then about 2 weeks later, all the Robert Sava stuff came out as well, which, to be honest, us long-term Suns fans were never really surprised about it. I definitely wasn't. So yeah, it's kind of like we were having a really good go, and like you said, we've become a good franchise. But those couple of weeks not re-signing DA to that extended contract and that, you know, that stuff about Sava coming out, I was a bit like, oh no, this feels like 5 years ago again. But yeah, he'll get paid, but yeah, it's a bit of a weird situation, not extending a number one pick.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a bit of a weird situation, bit of a dangerous game, perhaps. I hope it works out for Phoenix. I want to see him stay there because I think he's. I really like him. I think as a player, he's got the bag really to pull out all the tricks for many years to come. We'll see what happens. So the West is a little bit wild, a bit like the East really at the moment. I didn't expect maybe the Warriors to be as good. I had them there or thereabouts, but I didn't expect them to be so good. So fair play to them, and Clay yet to come back as well. As I said, Lakers I never really had, was never particularly high on. We knew the Clippers were going to be a bit struggling with injury problems, no Kawhi. Denver I expected to be better, etc., etc. Utah will always be there or thereabouts, but they'll end up Utah in the playoffs as they do. So yeah, very much Phoenix. It's there for the taking for them, so it's exciting. What do you think in terms of, you had this incredible run? You'll tell me how many games in a row it was. I'm going to say something like 14, 15 wins in a row, might have even been more at the beginning of the season, and yet it never really got picked up. The media, the national media, it was never spoken about enough. From a fan's point of view, Did that annoy you, or is that just keep going? Don't talk about us. That's fine.
I'm kind of used to it with Phoenix now. Every so often it bugs me. I think there was one game where we hit, it was like 20 wins in a row, I think it was. I think we had slightly more, but the 20th win, I thought, oh, it's a big one sort of thing. And all that was over the news is that like the Lakers are crap. And it's kind of like, so even when they're bad, they're getting in the news sort of thing. But no, as a Suns fan, you're kind of used to it because we are, I mean, it's a bit weird. Phoenix is like the third largest populated city in America, but in terms of sports market, it's a middle one. So yeah, we're used to it. And from listening to like the local podcast, and I think the other sports find that within the city as well, within the state. So yeah, it was a bit frustrating, but at the same time, it's kind of quite good because it's just us going under the radar. It seems to be what this team's mentality is just keep plugging and keep going. But yeah, it used to be annoying, but you just get used to it.
Yeah, I think your views are echoed by many teams in the NBA. I think there's a lot that don't get the recognition that they deserve. I've got a cousin who's a big Toronto Raptors fan. Their title win season, you barely heard a peep from him all the way through. It's just the way the media works. So there we go. Before I get both of your thoughts on maybe some key matchups for tonight against Miami, first of all, Matt, what are your thoughts on Miami this year? As I said, last year, bit of a disappointment for us going out early on to Milwaukee, who, no disgrace, but perhaps the way we went out, not great. But tough season for us so far, injury-wise, but we're still doing it. What's the view from the West over in Phoenix? You've been impressed? I don't expect you to have seen too much, of course, but what have been your initial thoughts with Miami?
Yeah, I try and keep my ear to the ground with most games. I always look at the box scores and that. And yeah, I think you're right. It's just injury bug. I think Lowry coming across to you guys, great signing. I know he's not the player he used to be, but you don't need that sort of level of performance from him anymore because you've got a deep team. Tyler Hero, I'm not a big fan, I must admit. Great player, but I just not a fan of him. But he, compared to last season, I think the finals went to his head a bit. So last season he was a bit kind of got wrapped up in the media and the whole sort of, being famous, basically. Whereas it seems like he's really got back to the gym and honed his craft and really got back on it this year. I really like Duncan Robertson. I think he's one of those amazing success stories and he totally deserved that contract extension. And I know he dropped to the bench a bit last season as well, but it's nice to see him pretty much as the sort of main starter all the time because I think every team needs a guy like that. Jimmy, it's the usual stuff. He competes, and like you said, he's could have a broken leg. He's a bit like the guy from Monty Python, isn't he? It's just a flesh wound, and he'll carry on. But yeah, mad respect for the Heat. For me, because when I was watching the NBA as younger, it was Shaq and Wade. So it's just one of those teams where you just like them. It's that's how I see it. So yeah, it's good to see them succeeding even while going through all the problems. And as you can probably guess, because I mentioned it earlier, but I really rate Bam as well. I think he's fantastic. It's just, I think his IQ is really underrated. And yeah, I just think he's really good. And I think a lot of young, big guys should look to him offensively to see how a modern NBA big can be.
Yeah, wow. I mean, great praise. Feeling the love from Matt there. Lots of nice things to say about Miami. That's great. Yeah, I think it's I think
good
it's
jerseys as well. You always do well with the jerseys.
Yeah, the jersey game is unrivaled. Yeah, we've locked that down. That's fantastic. But yeah, I think that's the one thing that you can like or not like Miami. But I think one thing that sticks out to a lot. We love it as our own supporters and we bang the drum about it all the time. But the culture of no matter who's out there, doesn't matter if all your starters are going, you're going to put out a performance because that's what's instilled throughout the whole DNA of the team. So that's obviously what always sort of rings true when I speak to any fans about the Miami Heat, as they say, that culture of just giving your best is infectious. So that's good. Right, let's talk about tonight quickly then. Ollie, key matchups for tonight. I think the Suns are pretty much full strength apart from Landry Shamet, I believe, is out. Dario Saric, I believe, is out. That's about it. Heat have their own usual problems. No Bam, no Oladipo, no Morris, no Dedmon. Jimmy, game time decision, as we know. what do you think here? Because we'll come on to predictions in a minute, but if the Heat are going to get a W, it's going to be a tough W, but where's going to be the keys to success?
I mean, I think your eyes are naturally drawn to CP3 and Devin Booker. I'm a massive fan of both of them. So I'd be interested to see the CP3 versus Kyle Lowry sort of battle, because Matt, as you alluded to, I think Kyle Lowry signing for the Heat was very similar to CP3 signing for DeAndre Ayton's development, in a very similar way that Kyle Lowry can be that for Bam and has been that for Bam, obviously before he went and got injured. So I think that battle will be important. I think as well, if Jimmy's not going to play, then who are they going to put on to Devin Booker? Is it worth switching PJ down to him and then moving some guys further up? We'll have to wait and see. But I think those two, as well, DeAndre Ayton going against Omer, who has been phenomenal recently, a finalist for Rookie of the Month, which was amazing. And his stretch recently of rebounding has been just remarkable, really. So he's brilliant and he's done really well. But, DeAndre Ayton, a little bit more experienced, a bit more savvy. He's got CP3 to learn from, and he has done for a couple of years now. So you could look anywhere really and say that anywhere could be a key matchup, but those three are the main three for Phoenix, I think, and they're the ones that the Heat are going to have to pay the most attention to.
Yep, of course. It's not silly to point out the most obvious choice there, which is exactly what you said there. It's going to be there's a tough assignment on our hands tonight. Omer has been brilliant, as you said, Omer Yurtseven. I think a franchise record of more than 12 rebounds a game for a certain amount of stretch. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I did see the tweet. So hats off to Omer, but he's got his hands full tonight with DeAndre Ayton. Anything else on top of what Ollie just said there, Matt? From the Phoenix point of view, if you're going to get the job done tonight, where's it got to come from? What's the most important matchup?
So I think in the finals, Milwaukee put PJ on Booker quite a bit. So you might see that. However, it was sometimes successful, sometimes not. But the problem you're going to have is that Booker had a bad game against the Clippers. He only scored 10 points and usually comes back out with a vengeance. So if you haven't got Jimmy playing to take him, that's going to be difficult for you. I think where you're going to struggle is when the bench comes in. Our bench is pretty good. And I think with Jay Crowder coming back, it means that Cam Johnson, who has been starting in his place, will go to the bench. So it just makes our bench that one bit stronger because of our depth. But yeah, it'll be good to see Ayton back against. Is it Omer? Did you say?
Omer, yes. Yeah, he's our rookie.
So I was really impressed.
Choice centre, but he's been doing great.
Yeah, I just think sometimes DA struggles with energy centres, and that's what Omer is. So we might see DA struggle a bit there because he takes a little while to get his wind underneath him sometimes. But then what we've been seeing when that's been happening, Monty's been pulling out quite quickly and put McGee in just to get that, just to refocus DA and then go back in. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one just because you guys are so short on players and we're coming back at full strength. But yeah, for us, I think if we can control the boards against you, being that your sort of big guy depth isn't great, a bit like what we've been dealing with. And we currently have like 5 or 6 centers signed because of these 10-day contracts. And we've just got, we've signed Bismack Biyombo to the end of the season. We've got him. So yeah, that'll be it. But yeah, our 3-point shooting, if that's over, I think it's something like 40, I think we're shooting about 42% for the season, which is like 3rd or 4th in the NBA. And they aim to take at least 40 a game. So that will be the bit. The biggest thing on the threes is that Booker is shooting over 40% for the first time in his career, and he's doing it on pull-up threes as well. He's shooting a high 30 on that. So that's the biggest change. But yeah, we'll see. I think for Phoenix to lose this with you guys at the lower strength you are, it's going to be a massive upset for one. But I think it's going to be... I think, yeah, if we're missing our shots, that'll be it. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, Matt, it's been brilliant having you on. Thank you so much for rescuing us and joining us tonight. Before you go, I'm going to ask you for your predictions, but I'm going to start with you, Ollie. We always do this, Matt, of who we think is going to win and by how many. The bookies are saying Phoenix with Miami -9 tonight. So they think that's a sort of Phoenix with a -9, Miami with a +9 start. I think, despite everything, it's going to be tighter than that. I think it's going to be a real close contested game tonight. But what are your thoughts, Ollie? What do you reckon tonight?
I think so. My heart's telling me that, and my heart is obviously saying that the Heat are going to win. But a Phoenix team that's almost at pretty much full strength against a depleted Heat squad. If Jimmy doesn't play, I think we will be overpowered. If Jimmy does play, which I don't think he should, as we spoke about earlier, I think it'll be a lot closer. Honestly, I can't see the Heat winning. If we can keep it within 5, I'll be happy.
Fair enough. Matt, what do you think? Who's going to get the W tonight and by how many?
I'm going to go with the Suns, unsurprisingly.
Shock.
Yeah, sorry. I did predict that because I do a story or an article on a Monday, and I always put in predictions. So I predicted that. I'm going to say, I don't usually go by points, but I'll probably say if you've got Jimmy, I'm going to say we'll win by 7. But if you haven't got Jimmy, I'm going to say 11 or 12.
Okay. So,
but that'll be it. Yeah. That'll be sort of, I think you guys will hang around for a good sort of 2 and a bit, maybe 3 quarters, and then we'll just sort of pull away at the end, having the depth and being able to rest guys and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, it's going to be a tough assignment, Jimmy Butler tonight or not. It always is, especially against a very good team, as Phoenix are one of the best in the NBA at the moment. I do think it's going to be a tight game. I think Miami will cover that spread. But ultimately, yeah, Phoenix back to pretty much full health. It would be a big shock tonight if the Heat take the win. I don't expect us to. We're not the best road team either. So I think it will be a Phoenix win, but I think it'll be a close one. So I'm going to say Suns by 4. Could even come down to the last minute in terms of possession to get it over the line. So I'm expecting a really exciting game tonight. Before we come on to all that, Matt, thank you again so much for joining us today. Where can everybody find you in your brilliant account, mate?
So I am Suns Fans UK on Twitter and Instagram. You can also read the article that I mentioned about. I do a weekly roundup for the team at sunsfansuk.com.
Great stuff. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Ollie, thank you as well. Appreciate you coming and sharing some time on your Saturday night. Follow us at the Miami Heat UK. As always, it's a 2 a.m. tip tonight, so not a very nice one. Matt's used to this. He knows these sort of times. They're fine. It's just running the mill for the Western Coast teams, but a brutal one for us, 2 a.m. But please follow us. We will be here. I'll be tweeting live, so follow us. Live commentary thread at the Miami Heat UK. And of course, please subscribe to the YouTube channel at Miami Heat UK TV. We're really going to try and push this thing this year. Lots of new ideas and content coming on there. So follow us there. Until then, enjoy the game, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.